Good evening, everyone. I will call the meeting to order for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqawak, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Otipetsuwak Métis Nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Can I get a motion, please, for the adoption of the agenda? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move that the agenda for the March 3rd, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Can I get a motion, please, for the adoption of the minutes? Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
I motion that the minutes of the February 17th, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Holden. Any questions, comments, or concern with said minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We have no public hearings, no presentations and delegations, no bylaws. Our first item is the Community Wildfire Mitigation Strategy presented by Mr. Bradley Milton, our fire chief. Come on up to the table there, Brad.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having us tonight. Tonight we're going to be presenting the Community Wildfire Mitigation Strategy. This was a plan that was developed through Ben here, our consultant, who was the successful bidder and is a local member of our community here out of Yellowhead County. The Community Wildfire Mitigation Strategy, the previous strategy that we had was from 2015. We were very fortunate to receive funding from Wawanesa to have this project done and have a rewrite and update with the current strategies and tactics that are out there, as well as looking at some of the heat mapping and threat that is to the town of Edson that we currently see in today's environment. So with that, I will turn it over to Ben, and you can take it from there.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Will it pop up on the screen? Awesome.
There you go.
All right, so thank you, Brad, and we'll go through the high points of some of the learnings, the findings, and recommendations from the Town of Edson Community Wildfire Mitigation Strategy. This work was completed with a grant in coordination with Wawanesa that Brad applied for, and we got some funding to complete this work, finish it in March of 2025. What is a community wildfire mitigation strategy? It helps the community assess the local hazards, identify strategic investments to mitigate risk and promote preparedness, facilitates the discussion during the planning process to assist fire protection with fire operations, as well as assist with finding funding gaps for fuel mitigation projects and priorities. The 2025 Community Wildfire Plan included an updated version and expanded from the 2015 Edson Fire Smart Community Plan. It included a community engagement questionnaire, also included a stakeholder meeting, a wildfire hazard assessment, sprinkler plan, mitigation strategies, and an implementation plan. The purpose of the community questionnaire was to get feedback from the entire community and those who were interested in responding. So it was an online questionnaire that was available to anyone between August 9th and 28th, 2024. There were a total of 16 questions, and we received feedback from 148 responders. Now, quality feedback was noted here because many of the questions had an opportunity to provide comments and additional information, and we really did get some good comments back. We'll go through a few of the questions that are pertinent to the study. The first one, question one, was we wanted to know whether we're getting responses back from residents or business owners or people from other communities. Majority greater than 90%. It was all from residents of Edson. We also want to know if members have been previously impacted. Now, this study was released very shortly after the Jasper fires. So there was some people impacted from Jasper, Fort McMurray in 2016, Slave Lake in 2001, and also some long-term residents of Edson from 1957. I'll circle back to that in a few slides. How impacted were you? Well, I think we were pretty well all impacted. Some a few days, some a few weeks, and some were heavily impacted, encountering some loss of dollars financially. Awareness of existing strategies. We wanted to know if the community members were aware of that 2015 plan. Most people weren't, almost 50%. Few have heard of it, few reviewed it, and a few had actually applied some of the learnings from that. Fifth question was satisfaction with the current 2015 plan. And some people were satisfied, some people were not even aware. Now, the next question was, were people adequately prepared? I think one of the learnings coming out of the 23 fires was that everybody got prepared real quick. And the next time we have to do this, things will work a whole lot better and people will be more prepared for it. So there were some learnings in that respect. We also wanted to know if members supported municipal prioritization of wildfire work on certain lands and in certain areas. And there's an overwhelming response for that. Nearly 90% of people, yes, would support municipalities doing wildfire mitigation work. Question 11 is, what are the priorities to the community? I think the take-home message here on this one is that everyone in Edson loves their hospital, almost 90%. Following that, municipal infrastructure, homes and schools. So what were some of the mitigation options that we let responders entertain? Training professionals, vegetation management, training residents, vegetation removal and cleaning from yards, and community engagement. And the others, we received some feedback for some other ideas within the study. Vegetation management options that we proposed were some fire smarting activities, dozer guard or fire guard work, so that's at about 50%. The fire smart is particularly interesting. That received a response of about 80%. And I actually give credit to Alberta Forestry and Wildfire for a lot of their fire smart work and public education that they have done there. That's likely the reason why we see such a big acknowledgement for those activities. There's also support for prescribed burning as well as grazing livestock. So the area of interest that we focused on is, as you'd imagine, around the town of Edson. We originally started with a 2-kilometer buffer around the community. However, other opportunities and mitigation strategies actually push that out to 10 kilometers, and we'll get into some of those details. As you all are very well aware, most of the land north and east of Edson is privately owned. And to the south and to the west, there's a lot of crown land dominated in forests. Boreal forests. So the first thing we did was we dug into the Ansel Fire Tower weather data, which was a very interesting data set from a wildfire perspective. It has been a wildfire station since 1974. And some of that data was not always consistent. For example, there were many years it was only run as a weather station in the early spring and in the fall. Now it's a fully automated weather station for sure, but initially it wasn't. There are gaps for other reasons, including equipment malfunctions, technical delays, that sort of stuff. That has now all been changed within about the last 7 years, I believe. So what we did was we were able to take a lot of the weather data that we did have from the tower, look at wind, temperature, moisture contents, and we're able to pull out wildfire indices, including fine fuel moisture content, which includes the temperature, precipitation, wind speed, and wind direction, as well as the calculated fire weather index. The fire weather index is basically the indice that you see driving along the highway where Birdie the Beaver is low, medium, or high risk. That's what that graph on the right is showing. If we look at that graph on the right, there are a couple things I want you to focus in on. The first one is early in the season, not necessarily April, but if you look at May, we're particularly hot, and we have a very high monthly average wildfire rating. That kind of drops throughout most of our summer and then increases later in the season again. And that's been the case since 1974. Additional analysis, so within that 10-kilometer zone around the town of Edson, we pulled out Alberta wildfire data, and we're able to look at the number of fires within this 10-kilometer zone. Number of fires is the blue bar graphs, the blue bars. So on the left, correlate to the number of the fires in the zone, within that 10-kilometer zone. Then we have the size of the fires in hectares. That's the orange bars. And the scale for that is on the right. And then we have that line, which is a seasonal severity rating, or SSR. It's a numerical measure of the amount of effort required to suppress a single fire. So when you look at this graph, there's a few things to note. First of all, if we look at the fires, we have quite a few fires within that 10-kilometer zone, anywhere from 18 to about 5 every year. We can also see that in 2023, we really didn't have that many. We only had about 10. But what we did have was a very large fire that came rolling in at our doorstep, and within that 10-kilometer zone, it burned approximately 5,684 hectares. So 2023 was not the worst year. There's other years that are worse based on SSR, including 2015, 21, 22, and 06 were all worse years. We just had a fire knocking at the doorstep in 23. We took a look at the vegetation and land cover interest within the Edson area. Again, agriculture to the north and east, which is great for fire suppression activities. And to the south of us and to the west, primarily dominated in boreal forest. This is a very interesting map. And I told you we get back to that year 1956. 1957, that was identified in the community questionnaire. Well, 1956, 1957, we have record of a very large wildfire south of Edson from 1956. Is there a pointer on this?
No, it doesn't work on the screen.
Oh, it doesn't work. Okay. So if you look at the very bottom there's a large fire. This is 1956, basically just entered the 10-kilometer zone of Edson. To the right of that, and also overlapping that 1956 fire to some extent, is our 2023 fire that came rolling in from the southeast. And then you can see the historical patterns for wildfires across this area. The large ones obviously creating a larger grayed out area. Some of the ones I remember is 1998, close to the Pado gas plant, and I wasn't around in 1944, so I can't comment on some of those other ones. But what you can see here is a couple things, is that our area has a history of wildfires, both being human caused or natural causes or even unknown. You can also see that the trend, generally speaking, is to have wildfires start from the southeast and work towards the northwest. And that's fairly well documented. We took a look at the fire behavior potential, or FBP, fuel grid. This is a quantitative estimate based on the fuel, the weather, or FWI, topography, foliar moisture, as well as the species. So on the right, you can see kind of the FBP grid that is designated by the Canadian Wildfire Service, and this is the grid that pretty well drives all wildfire models within Alberta. So we're able to get our hands on that. This data was also ground truth by me personally to confirm the data that we're seeing, and I took a look at 18 separate stands within that 10-kilometer zone. This map, if you were to take one slide from this entire presentation, it would be this one right here. This is landscape fire exposure, so this overlays all those other layers that I just shown you, including the FPP field grid, land data sets. And what we have done here is we've used a model produced by Jen Beverly out of the University of Alberta. She's a wildfire scientist. This is some newer research that she is promoting, and a lot of people are using it. It's a very useful tool in wildfire fighting. What it does, it picks out the conifer stands, anything greater than 25%, calculates the hazardous fuels for each raster within a GIS data set, and anything greater than 60% is deemed to be extremely high. On the right, you can see the legend. Areas that are extremely high are jump out right out at us, particularly the southeast, to the south, a little bit to the northwest, but that area to the south of us is the most significant. You can also see, if you remember where that 1956 fire was, that's 70 plus years ago, you can see that the forest is in fact maturing and growing in over time. That big blue line on the right, in the middle there, that again is our 2023 fire. Obviously the model is correlating for that disturbance correctly, and that we're likely not going to burn over that fire anytime soon until the forest field conditions change. Land parcels, we took a look at the government land parcels in close proximity to town and applied the same model to it. Mean weighting of ignition exposure was applied to each, and a lot of these are town of Edson, and I have ranked them in another slide coming up. A wildfire exposure assessment for radiant heat was completed. This looked at fuel within 0.1 to 30 meters of all structures. With that assessment, no high to extreme rated properties were identified. The short-range spotting model looked at fuel within 0.1 to 100 meters of all structures. Here we find 6% of the structures are high to extreme exposure. So those areas, those structures with a darker brown color, there's a few down the golf course road and to the east that jump out right away. If we look at the long-range spotting, so the fuel within 100 meters to 500 meters of structures, 15% of the structures within the community fall within the high to extreme exposure rating. Again, those structures down the golf course road to the east as well as to the north there of the community jump out right away. A sprinkler plan was developed, which pulled out both the natural as well as hydrant source locations. We identify strategic placement of equipment and resources within these high-risk areas, and the intent of this is to support firefighting efforts should it be required. The town of Edson, this was pulled from the 2015 Fire Smart program. So a lot of these areas were identified in 2015, and a lot of these are subject to funding resources. Some of these projects have been completed. Some of these have even been retreated, correct, particularly around Parkland School there. And some of these areas have yet to be treated, correct?
Correct.
Parkland School is completed there, as well as the area south of the hospital, labeled as number 7 there, was completed with previous funding grants. But there's more to do. Here are the municipal properties where we've identified the top 5 locations based on the wildfire modeling. First one is a quarter section there that is close to the landfill. Number 2 and 3 are both up kind of on the north and the east side of Parkland School. 4 is the properties, and I've combined both the properties there north of the airport into one because they're basically the same parcel. And then number 5, which is out by the sewage lagoons there, kind of to the northeast. And I believe number 5 might have even been completed now.
Correct, it was, yes.
Yeah, so we've made progress since this has been developed even. For the hazard to the south of the community, we've identified a previously existing Canadian Northern Railway grade. And we propose that this old railway grade would act as a very good fire access road for heavy equipment during wildfire suppression activities. The majority of this road is currently under oil and gas disposition and ownership. Currently, there is a bridge out over the Moose Creek, and this access road would be a fabulous place to construct a fire guard off of. Recommendations from the community engagement are to build upon existing community engagement through the communications department here at the town of Edson. This may include open houses. We need to stress the importance of the Alberta Wildfire Smart initiatives that have taken place in Edson so far and those to come. Something that jumped out in the survey was social media messaging was big. It seems like a lot of people in this day and age get their information from the internet. Community stakeholder meetings were recognized as being valuable. Engagement of local contractors whenever possible was identified, as well as actively showcasing Fire Smart activities within the community. Additional recommendations include continue with the planned Fire Smart activities, expand Fire Smart into the larger identified landscape areas, work with private landowners to complete Fire Smart activities on their properties, and source funding opportunities wherever possible. Recommendations coming from the South Fire Guard and Access are to work with the current disposition holders or secure existing dispositions to establish a fire access road, source funding opportunities where possible, restore the bridge over Moose Creek, plan vegetation management activities within this area, and complete road upgrades where required. Conclusion, continue the existing Fire Smart activities, develop plans to expand Fire Smart, work with energy companies to secure the South Fire Access Road, design a scope of work to restore the bridge across Moose Creek, expand the fire access road to the west and to the east to ensure continuity and egress for fire suppression efforts. Plan and develop a 200-meter fire guard adjacent to the fire access road south of the community. Collaborate with both West Fraser and Weyerhaeuser for fire guard funding. Continue to search for Fire Smart funding opportunities for Edson. Questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Polterak, for your presentation once again. I know this is your second time doing this. He presented to the previous council. Before I open the floor to questions, Chief Milton, is there anything you want to supplement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the mayor through the mayor to all the council. We were really appreciative of Ben for taking the time to do the work that he's done for us. We've taken a number of steps to continue to protect the community since my arrival in 2023. We've achieved several funding opportunities through FRIA for the treatment of the 48th Street by Parkland. With that funding, we actually ended up having a little bit extra left over. Our contractor was able to do extra work, which took us in behind across Edson Drive and in behind 18th Ave, which we had a ton of positive feedback from the residents in that area. They were really happy seeing that area opened up. They felt a lot safer. They were feeling much better with the Fire Smart work. Even with our contractor working as close as they were to the homes and to the property lines, we had no negative interactions with community members. I had several phone calls from community members saying how impressed they were with that work, and they want to continue to see that grow. With that, we've also been successful in our previous FRIA funding that we came to council here not too long ago for, and that's to do some clear cutting in some town-owned property north or west of 63rd Street, north of the airport, that will tie into the current work that's being done by one of the local property owners there. That's going to break that fuel continuity coming in from that northwest side and really protecting the homes and critical infrastructure in that area, including the airport. With that being supporting Alberta Wildfire and their bombers. That's a huge piece that we need to protect as well for any potential incoming wildfire from the northwest. So as we continue to go, we've done several open houses. We've had Alberta Wildfire, Carolyn and her admin team and her information team coming out and supporting us on Fire Smart Preparedness Days that we've had. And we've had a ton of positive interaction with the community. So just continuing to have that work push forward is going to be really beneficial for us. And then the other highlight that we have is with the approval of council, what the budget is. We have 2 summer students coming in May. And those summer employees are going to be doing vegetation management in some of the smaller forested areas that are owned by the town. That's going to let us get ahead without having to worry about trying to achieve free of funding. The one thing that we run into with free of funding is it's only to be used on public lands, so town-owned and/or crown lands. So unfortunately, trying to work with residents and having money to support them can be a bit of a challenge with free of funding. But these 2 summer students will be able to provide further information and further education to the residents with regards to Fire Smart. So the whole program is rolling, and we're just trying to grow it every day. So.
Fire Guard EOI?
Yes, and we have the Fire Guard, which we'll touch on the next piece for council.
Thank you, Chief Milton. All right, council, we'll open the floor to questions. I know that was a very in-depth presentation, and Ben's done a tremendous amount of work that we really appreciate on this. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, to the chair, to Ben and administration, great job. To see a great build on the 2015 Community Protection Plan. This really takes it to the next level, which is long overdue. 10 years is, a lot has changed in 10 years with the landscape that's out there. It's great to see. 2 questions, one more for administration. The sprinkler lines that we've established is great. Our current sprinkler trailer, what kind of coverage would it have to achieve these lines, I guess, would be the first question.
Yeah, thank you through the chair to Councillor Schramm. That Type 2 SPU can either protect upwards of between 40 and 60 homes, depending on how it's set up, or we have the equipment that we can set up that wet line. So we can kind of go either way with that sprinkler trailer. We're also trying to track down funding that would allow us to have a designated sprinkler trailer. This is something that Jasper's done, and it was very, very successful for them to be able to do. I believe they can do upwards of 5 kilometers of sprinkler line on their west side. So it is something that we are continuing to, again, expand within our repertoire for wildfire.
Perfect, thank you. And if I may, the second part, and you may answer the second part of my question with your next presentation, and it kind of gets back to the Fire Guard. When I look at that Fire Guard, which I think is an integral part, especially dealing with the south side of our community, southeast side, and I know you've touched base a little bit about partnerships with industry, but I think there's other partnerships that need to be achieved as well with the county, the province, forestry. So you just give, and again, you may cover that in your FRIA, but if you give me a little bit of a snapshot of what those partnerships may look like moving forward.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Schramm, I will expand on that a little bit further in the next piece of council here. But with that, there would be the next steps would be engaging with Yellowhead County to see about partnerships with them. Our initial contact with the FMA holders was really, really positive, and the engagement from them and the interest in them to participate in that was extremely high, very, very positive, as well as talking with Alberta Forestry or Alberta Wildfire. They had the same input. They were really willing to work with us and do whatever we need to as a major partner agency. As part of the FRIA application, which again we'll touch on a little bit, it becomes, once it's accepted, it kind of goes to FRIA and they handle everything. It kind of takes it out of our hands. It's more of an idea process that we put forward, and then they take it and run with it. So we'll have some expansion on that in the next piece of this, if that works for you. Thanks. All right, thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Councillor Schramm. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson-Lear.
Through the mayor to Fire Chief Milton and presenter, I just wanted to tag on to Councillor Schramm's question in relation to the sprinkler. In the report, it was pretty extensive in relation to sprinkler deployment training.
Yes.
And so with the interagency cooperation and things like that, I just wondered if you guys had already, or you had already had some of the like deployment training, or if that's in the works as well.
Yes, thank you through the chair to Councillor Wilson-Lear. Our fire department, right now, I'm going to say about 85% to 90% of the members are what we call WUI-M trained. So in the province of Alberta, under the WUI program, we have the WUI-M program, or WUI member. What that does is it allows our members to learn the deployment of sprinklers. It allows them to become it's quite extensive. There's about 40 hours of online learning that they have to do to then do the theoretical, which is a 2-day theoretical portion through one of the provincial WUI teams. And then on top of that, it's a 2-day practical portion that we do, which is the deployment of sprinklers, as well as various wildfire tactics, so bump and run, secure and hold, different tactics to move through a community or through a residential neighborhood and being able to action those embers that may come in during an ember storm. What we now have is a group of members throughout this fire department that are highly trained and ready to go. We've seen this on multiple deployments now. We've had, I believe, upwards of 20 of our members that have deployed throughout the last 2 years on various emergencies, whether it's Swan Lake, Red Earth, Jasper, our own incidents here in Edson. Our team is ready to go for that. With that, we've also focused specifically with my background, as well as the really highlighting the actual sprinkler program. We had some outside agencies, so Whitecourt Fire Department is very, very thorough with their program. We had a few of their members come in and assist our members to learn the deployment of that Type 2 sprinkler trailer. And during 23, that was really seen when we had those trailers come in from other municipalities. Our team got out there and assisted them in deploying those sprinklers throughout the town.
Thank you. And for new members of council that may not know the acronyms, WUI stands for Wildland Urban Interface.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Pasichny. Council, any further questions for our presenters here this evening? So I do have a couple questions, Chief Milton. So you mentioned the second sprinkler trailer and, securing grants for that or donations. What kind of cost are we looking at for that second sprinkler trailer? Obviously, with what we experienced in 2023, we had a lot of lines in a lot of places trying to protect this community. Luckily, we didn't have to activate them. But can you maybe delve a little bit further on that?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For that, these trailers can vary depending on how we set them up and how much kit we're looking at with the purchase of the trailer and the equipment. We can be anywhere from between $20,000 to about $80,000. These trailers are expensive. The one that we have tried to push through some grants was sitting around the $28,000 to $30,000 mark. With that, that's just the equipment. We had a trailer that we were able to potentially utilize with that, which I still do believe is available. It hasn't been moved, and so we can get there. The equipment and our teams can build various pieces that can what we call pecker poles to get those sprinklers up higher, so that if they're out along a field, that we're getting a better coverage, right? So our teams are able to, or our members are able to work kind of on the weekends and through training to build these systems so that they're for quick deployment. Again, depending on how you want to set it up and how much, if we're looking at a 3-kilometer versus a 20-kilometer line, is going to play a big factor in how much equipment we require.
Thank you for that. And then just on your comments regarding training, I know that you've been working very closely with Hinton, with Whitecourt. Can you expand a little bit on that, some of the training initiatives and some of the, what's the word I'm looking for here, mutual aid agreements that we have initiated since 2023 and some of the learnings from 2023 and the after action report?
Wonderful. Thank you through the mayor to all of council. So currently, as you know, we do have a mutual aid agreement with Yellowhead County that allows us to have mutual and reciprocal receipt of services. So if Yellowhead County or I require, or we as Edson require a mutual aid, we will assist each other, and that cost is kind of waived, right? Other than exceptional costs, if we have to use large amounts of foam or something like that, there may be a bill for that. With that, after 23, we actually ended up joining through the old council part of the Northwest Agreement. What that does is brings in communities from here to Jasper, all the way up to high level and to the border, throughout the entire Northwest Division of Alberta here. So any community in that part, we can get dump trucks, dozers, fire departments, mutual aid equipment for firefighting, whatever we need. So that allows us to have better reach. Now, additionally, through that, we also have access to the provincial program through the WUI program, or the Wildland Urban Interface program. If we need to, through the Wildland Urban Interface field officers, we can access equipment from other municipalities. Now, that becomes a bill to us through the 2025, 2026 WUI guidelines. There is billing rates we would have to pay. But this was activated in 23, and that's how we had as the number of fire departments and municipal personnel that arrived in Edson and supported us. If I remember right, I believe it was close to 30 departments that we had in the area here that were supporting us during the 23 fires. So we also have access to that. So we can get a lot of iron, a lot of manpower, and a lot of equipment very quickly, usually within a 8 to 24-hour period, depending on where that equipment's coming from. Now, during 23, we had departments as far as Vulcan come up and support us, which was fantastic. We've seen the same thing in Jasper when they activated. They start pulling every department that can go and support. So we have multiple things at our disposal here. With that, we also have agreements that we can get in with we're working on. We're working to complete agreements with Whitecourt. Hinton and Jasper fall under our Northwest Agreement. Whitecourt is not part of that, so we're working with Whitecourt to get a mutual aid agreement with them. We can then bring their resources in if required. So trying to expand those mutual aid agreements as much as we can.
Thank you, Chief Milton, and I'm very glad to hear that and see us working with our neighbors, because we are very closely tied, and I know we will do whatever it takes to support them as much as they would support us. So that's fantastic. Council, is there any further questions, comments, concerns? I'll just mention that I have had conversations with the Minister of Forestry, Todd Lowen, regarding our fire guard, and he's very interested to seeing our plan and assisting where he can. He says, if you want to knock down some trees, come see me. So he's very interested in protecting communities in this province, and so once we have this adopted, and hopefully this spring we can set up a meeting with him and push this forward. So with that, Council, I'll take a motion from the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
I move that council accept the community wildfire mitigation strategy as presented.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much for your work on this, Ben. We really, really appreciate it. Moving on to the second item. Go ahead, Chief Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the mayor to all of council. So tonight we are here to present the FRIA expression of interest for the Fire Guard grant. This ties in from our previous presentation to the South Fire Guard for the town of Edson here. FRIA has several different funding streams that are available. Fire Guard is one of them that we have applied for. The cutoff for this was, I'm sorry, Ben, it was February 28th or something like that. 15th, thank you. Their windows for FRIA to get these applications in are very, very short from the time that they announce them to the time they get them in. We're generally that 3 to 4 week mark to write the entire grant, and these things are generally very large and time consuming. Through the CWMS, Ben was very generous to help us write that Fire Guard to expression of interest for the Fire Guard grant. With that, we'd be looking for your acceptance to that, to apply for that as a bonus to go towards. They usually ask for a council resolution. Now, expanding on that, we've just recently received 2 days ago information that our bid for this Fire Guard was successful and we've been shortlisted. Now, the way FRIA works with this is we've been informed that this will go out to a tender for a contractor to take over that, a consultant to take over that, and then that program will be handled by FRIA strictly and solely, and then we are no longer kind of involved. We may have input with the successful proponent after the fact, but when the consultants bid on this, they're not to be reaching out to the town for this process. So there will be further actions later on, but right now it has been put forward and has been accepted and shortlisted as an option for FRIA to proceed with. So this this resolution from council here would be a benefit because it will also go back to FRIA. It was noted in our application that a resolution would follow, and then that helps bolster the success of that possible fire guard, having the support of council behind that. Is anything you'd like to add towards?
Yeah, no, that pretty summarizes. The only thing I guess I might add
Please.
is that, so following this, the expression of interest, what is released to potential vendors is the development of an operational plan.
Yes.
So there's a phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 1 is the operational plan, and that goes out to bid to FRIA vendors. And then phase 2 would then follow up if funding is still available in another set via FRIA. Now, council will have to approve the operational plan before it's signed off on, as well as FRIA specialists will also need to sign off on it as well.
Right. Thank you, Ben. And now touching on that, that would also bring in at that point further communication with not only our First Nations and Indigenous groups, but also for county as well as the FMA holders. So those that are the forestry groups and so West Fraser and Canfor Weyerhaeuser, thank you. And any of the wood forestry product groups that are out there that have cut blocks that are within that area would be engaged, as well as anybody that may be a potential landowner in that area as well. So.
Thank you, and I know through the conversations with Weyerhaeuser, they're very supportive of the work that has been presented here today. So, council, do you have any questions for Chief Schramm? Go ahead, or Chief Milton. Go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
Through the chair to Chief Milton and our consultant. So I just so I'm clear on this, so the free application we put in is for the operational plan to design and lay it out as to what the fire guard will look like. Is that correct?
Correct. That would be, we put the initial plan forward, they accept it and shortlist it, and then those plans go out for bid to FRIA approved consultants and for a tender, and then they bid in on that and how they would build that plan out. So
Okay, and
that would take in our input to that program.
And if I may, the chair, did we put a dollar value on our grant application?
So during the expression of interest, there is no dollar grant. They only seek what we would be putting in for or in-kind donations to that, which includes our time, Ben's time, and anybody else from administration that may be involved in that.
Thank you. Council, any further questions, comments? I do have a question. So this plan, that doesn't deal with the crossing around over Moose Creek, does it?
No, not at this time. That would be worked into that operational plan. Again, this may be phased out because of the size of I can't remember, it was
18 to 24 kilometers.
Correct, thank you. 18 to 24 kilometers in distance. So there is a small portion on the west end that would have to have road developed, and that would be potentially done through the FMA holder getting into that area to do the clear cutting of the timber for that 200 meter swath along that road. And then there would also be the potential for grant funding. DFO, for example, has grant funding for fish species and safety of fish habitats for that area. So getting the grant, the bridge installed would be a separate grant, and that would be kind of done in potentially a couple phases here.
Okay, perfect. My only comment is, as we go through this process, is that if we are seeing any holdups or any issues, please, through the CAO, reach out so we can meet with the appropriate ministers. So my hesitation, or I guess one of the things that I'm concerned about with these things is we don't do it quick enough, right? And as time goes on, the excitement or the urgency of getting this work done, it can fall, and we have a government that's very interested. So we want to make sure that we take advantage of that as much as possible. So if there is no further questions, comments, or concerns, I will take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move that council direct administration to apply for the 2026 Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta FRIA Fire Guard Grant.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You're free to stay for the rest of the evening if you like, but we understand if you want to go enjoy the hockey game or something else. So. Thank you. Up next, we have the FCSS Advisory Board Grant Recommendations presented by Ms. Tanya Byers, our Community Services Manager, and Diana Chomniak, the FCSS Advisory Board Chair. And I am going to remove myself from this conversation due to a potential conflict of interest. I'll hand things over to Deputy Mayor Fogarty.
Thank you, Mayor Zahara. Thank you. Appreciate you coming to present to us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me back once again. My name is Diana Chomiak, and I am the Chair of the FCSS Advisory Board. Before I begin this evening, I just want to take a moment to thank the amazing board that I get to work with, as well as your wonderful staff. This is the board's third year advising on the grant applications, and every year we're getting more, and they're all amazing. This go around, we had 12 grants requests, and the requesting amount was over double of our available funds. So it makes it more and more challenging every year. I'd like to let the board know how much I appreciate them, the time and effort that they put into reviewing and discussing each application. We work to ensure that we're in alignment with the FCSS framework and outcomes. We also consider council direction, as well as what would have the greatest impact for our community. I would also like to say a big thank you to the FCSS administration team, Tanya, Sarah, and Anna. They're amazing. They're invaluable in our process, give guidance where needed, and they help us stay organized. Not that we need it, but you know. And they're simply a joy to work with. So I just wanted to add that. All right, so here are the FCSS grant application summary and recommendations. The FCSS Advisory Board grant program has a budget allocation of $30,000 for 2026. 12 applications have been submitted, totaling $63,575. So here are our recommendations. For Edson and District Community Learning for their settlement services, their project Sharing Culture and Community, they requested $1,200, and that is our recommendation as well, $1,200 for them. The Edson and District Historical Society Community Welcome Project requested $1,000, and we are recommending $1,000 for them. Edson United Church for their Community Kitchen Project requested $3,000, and we are recommending $3,000 for them. Next, we have the Edson Food Bank Society, provide supports that keep people engaged and active in the community. They requested $5,000, and that is our recommendation. Yellowhead Emergency Shelter for Women's Society, Edson Family Violence Prevention Group, requested $5,150, and we are recommending that amount. McLeod Primary Care Network for their life improvement workshops requested $2,500, and that is what we are recommending. Edson Leap Society for Children with Special Needs, the Leap Parent Child Community Playgroups requested $5,000, and that is our recommendation. The Daycare Society of Edson for their Edson Early Learning and Childcare Center for their Princess Superhero Party, they requested $1,000, and we are recommending $650. Edson Interchurch Assistance Association, the Edson Thrift Shop requested $4,000, and we are recommending $1,500 for them. Next, we have Woven Trails, Wisdom of the Horse, Preventative Community Wellness and Life Skills Program. $15,000 was requested, and we are not recommending any for that project. Calgary Single Mothers Society for their Talking Therapy Circles, requested $18,125, and we are not recommending any for that project either. Brain Care Center, their Community Inclusion Matters, requested $2,600, and we are recommending 0 for that as well. Our next steps, we have $5,000 left. We would like to proceed with a second intake to allocate the remaining 2026 funds. The second intake key dates, intake would open March 16th, 2026, and close on April 9th. FCSS Advisory Board meeting, discussion and recommendations would be on May 11th, and then present to Council on June 16th. And that is our recommendations. So thank you for your attention. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Taylor.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Ms. Chomniak, thank you for your presentation. I did serve on the FCSS board in the first 2 grant cycles, and this is like an explosion of new grants. This is absolutely incredible. It's great to see so many community groups taking advantage of this. Happy that we were able to sort of raise that. I think it was 12,000 when we initially started.
For our first year, yeah.
And now it's at 30,000. We're seeing lots of uptake in that, so that's fantastic. And this is going to sound crazy. I want it to be a difficult decision for the board, because I want to see lots of groups come forward to apply for funding for their groups. So my only comment is more towards administration, and that is when we supply this funding, if there could be opportunities for photo ops in terms of whether it's admin or members of the board, sort of doing that. 1, it promotes the program that got the funding, and 2, promotes the FCSS grant program as itself. I think it just is a win-win across the board, and everybody knows that it's the town of Edson supporting our local community groups. So anyways, that's my only comment, and thank you for you and the board's work.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Wilson-Lair.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Board Chair Chomiak and administration and all of Council, I would like to sincerely thank our Manager of Community Services, Ms. Byers, administration, and the FCSS Advisory Board for the significant amount of work that has gone into this grant process. Board members spent many days and hours individually reviewing and scoring each application using the approved matrix, which is really awesome, and then came together for in-depth review and discussions before bringing forward recommendations. I believe independent evaluation is so important to ensure the process is fair, transparent, and aligned with the priorities established under the FCSS framework. A lot of balancing had to occur while working within the approved $30,000 budget allocation. To the board members who volunteer their time and expertise, and to administration for supporting the process, I thank you for your careful stewardship of these community dollars. My question is, as there will be a second intake to allocate remaining 2026 funds, can you just clarify how this will be communicated to our community members in terms of that lesser amount now, and the dates and times, if it'll stay the same as what the regular communications are, or if there's other things that will happen with that?
Let Tanya take this one, Ms. Byers.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, we've actually already started drafting some material to indicate that 5,000 may not sound like a lot, but it can go, quite a long ways for smaller projects and such. So we're definitely going to roll it out, making sure that they understand what's available, so that we're not getting, the $15,000 requests when the money just isn't there. So we're definitely drafting to make sure that they're very aware, but also encouraging the smaller projects to come forward. You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from council? So I'll just end before we pass our motion or present our motion. I'll just say thank you, and if you could please pass your thanks on to all members of the team, everyone who worked towards providing their time to go through all of these applications. I know difficult decisions have to be made sometimes, but we really do appreciate it, and we know that those who received the funds will hopefully have very successful events and so forth with the money they're being provided. So thank you so much. That being said, can I get a motion? Councillor Wilson-Lair.
I move that council approve the Family and Community Support Services FCSS grants for a total of $25,000 as presented.
Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And I will ask Mayor Zahara to return and take over the chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty, for taking the chair for me. All right, we're going to move on to the next item, the YCE Multiplex Facility Component Sponsorship Policy CS14, presented by Vicki Bird, our Recreation Manager. Go ahead, Ms. Bird.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to bring this policy back. So I'm here to present the YC Multiplex Facility Component Sponsorship Policy, CS14, along with our supporting procedures and evaluation framework. These materials were developed collaboratively with our sponsorship consultants, JCI Incorporated, as well as both town and county administrations, and were reviewed at our YC Steering Committee on January 20th, as well as our Committee of the Whole meeting on February 10th. And we'll get into it. So the sponsorship policy has been created to establish a clear, consistent, and transparent framework for managing naming rights and sponsorship opportunities within the new YC Multiplex. The policy ensures that the processes we use are fair, defensible, and aligned with long-term interests of both municipalities. And more specifically, the purpose of the policy incorporates these 4 components here. So first is to provide a transparent sponsorship framework that guides how naming rights are offered, evaluated, and approved. This ensures consistent decision-making and public accountability. Second is to support the financial sustainability by generating alternative revenue streams for the facility's operations and capital improvements. Third is to ensure the sponsorship agreements align with community values, reflect the image of both municipalities, and maintain public confidence in how naming rights are awarded. And fourth, to protect the long-term integrity and reputation of the multiplex by defining appropriate term lengths, signage standards, and expectations for recognition. So the policy identifies the following major facility components as eligible for naming rights. As listed here, as you've seen previously, the main multiplex building, aquatic center, both ice arenas, the curling rink, gymnasium, and main lobby. In addition to this policy, it permits smaller or specialized spaces such as meeting rooms, dressing rooms, or equipment to be offered for sponsorship through the administrative processes in alignment with the broader framework. So this policy is grounded in several important guiding principles, transparency and equity. The policy emphasizes fairness and alignment with municipal values to support the public interest and community identity. Appropriate term lengths, naming rights agreements will generally span about 5 to 15 years and may include renewal provisions for first right of refusal clauses. These standards protect the facility's long-term image while allowing for financial stability. And joint governance and approval. A central component of this policy is the requirement for dual council approval. Any naming decision for major facility components must be approved by both town and county councils through formal resolutions prior to final selection. This ensures transparency and maintains the integrity of our regional relationship. Ongoing policy review. The policy will be reviewed every 3 years to ensure it remains relevant and effective. So a little bit about the procedure and sponsorship scoring rubric. You'll recall from the Committee of the Whole meeting where this was presented that we have a comprehensive sponsorship rubric, which evaluates proposals across these 4 weighted categories. First of all, it's the financial bid weighted at 60%. This assesses cash value, term length, payment structure, in-kind contributions, and the sponsor's marketing assets. The second is corporate health and stability, which is weighted at 15%. Evaluates creditworthiness, profitability, sector risks, and longevity to ensure naming partners can commit to long-term agreements. And then the third is corporate reputation and community alignment, also weighted at 15%. Ensures the sponsor's reputation, values, and community presence reflect positively on the facility and both municipalities. The fourth is marketing and innovation strength, weighted at 10%. Assesses marketing reach, activation concepts, community engagement, and support for facility programming. This structured scoring system aligns with national best practices and provides transparency and consistency for all sponsorship decisions. There is one item to note that has changed since the Committee of the Whole meeting. It's in our section 5.3 of the policy. There was a minor wording adjustment that has been made to ensure alignment with the Yellowhead County version of the policy. Section 5.3 has been updated with the wording additional spaces or components. So it's or components that has been added within the YC multiplex may be offered for sponsorship, with such sponsorships overseen jointly by the town and county administrations. Examples, meeting rooms, ice resurfacer, dressing room, or components. So they've just added that, and we've aligned our policy to do the same in the similar section. And then our recommendation is that council approve the YC multiplex facility component sponsorship policy, CS 14, as presented. It's a bit of a mouthful. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Council will open the floor to questions. Councillor Holden.
Through the mayor to Ms. Bird, I'm just thankful that we're getting a policy in place like this. It'll make it very transparent and make the selection of the naming rights for the different parts of the YCE. The question I really had was, when will be, once we approve this policy and that, what time frame are we looking at to start the process of engaging with businesses and partners that will that may want to possibly name part of this facility? Will we have those in place when the facility is fully open, or is that going to be an ongoing process? Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Holden. Thanks for the question. We're currently working with our sponsorship consultants right now. We began with an EOI process, and we've been working on our next steps. So it's already in motion, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's already happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to Ms. Bird, I thank you for your work on this. I know we looked at it at Committee of the Whole and it looked fantastic, so it's coming here for final approval. Just thinking ahead to when we do pass like a resolution on this type of thing, is the vision within the policy that essentially we'll be naming the company, naming term, naming price of what they're putting forth? Or what is the vision of the motion that we will make? Or is it to the terms they've agreed to? If there's companies that, like, in terms of perhaps they don't want to know the amount that they've given or things like that, like just thinking ahead to those types of motions that we're making. I don't know what that might look like.
I think, do you want me to take that one, Ms. Bird? Do you want to take that, CO Beveridge? Go ahead, CO Beveridge.
Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, at this moment in time, that hasn't been flushed out yet, and I think that that lends itself to the agreements that we make with the particular companies that come forward.
Thank you for that loaded question, Councillor Taylor. Very good question. Council, any further questions, comments, concerns with said policy? Seeing none, I'll take a motion from the floor, please. Councillor Fogarty.
I move the council approve the YCE Multiplex Facility Component Sponsorship Policy CS14 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, that motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Bird.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, the 2025 projects carried forward into 2026 budget year, presented by Denise McDonald, our Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to welcome Kelsey Schmidt, our Acting Finance Manager, to support these two next items in front of Council. So the 2025 project carry forwards into 2026. This includes the audited financial statements for the year, Audited financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2025 are in progress as we speak. A resolution is required to authorize the carry forwards for operating capital work into 2026. It ensures financial accountability and proper approvals to continue the work. Proposed carry forward totals $15,568,276. Since the funding for these projects was established in the prior year, no financial impact will result as to these carry forwards. So items from operating that are required to be carried forward include the Small Community Opportunity Program grant for $44,000. It was an unused grant that will be used in the 26 and 27 reporting period. The grant itself is due to be completed by 2027, so we have some time to complete that work. The Security Rebate Grant Program was budgeted for $15,000. 3 intakes were utilized in that program, and it has an ending date for Phase 1 in June of 2026. The Weyerhaeuser Trail connection, this is the design portion. Further work is needed to complete that design portion of the grant. Eddie Mascot deposit was made on the mascot itself, and it is expected to be delivered in 2026. Cellular program and tower repair for $15,500 is expected to be done in 2026. IT evergreening for $6,000 includes the IT replacement programs that will add to the work to be done in 2026. Municipal facilities, parts and supplies, $22,483 will be carried forward. Some work was done on exterior door replacements and not completed before winter, and so asked to be deferred to 2026. When we look at the capital carry forwards into 2026, we include the Vision Park, which has unspent funds for 2025 carry forward to 2026. We also include the Weyerhaeuser Trail connection. The construction portion was delayed due to environmental approvals. Sanitary upgrade B1, original budget was $3.4 million. And carry forward phase 2 of B1 project will be completed in 2026. Township Road 532 has a budget of $500,000, and the project was delayed due to land negotiations. 8th Avenue Rehab was $2.2 million, and we're carrying forward $60,000 for construction is complete and the final as-builts were included in that, and we have some post-construction and warranty work to be completed on that. Wasp Creek was 1.4 million, and we're carrying forward $547,079. Phase 1 construction is complete, and Phase 2 will be finished in 2026. Water degas upgrade project includes the water treatment plant. The original budget was $728,730, and we are carrying forward $605,049 of that project. The design was on hold for RO pilot project, currently in design phase. Accessible swing, we are carrying forward a small amount, $885 for bench delivery expected in 2026. The aerial truck, of course, is expected to be delivered in 2026, and so we're looking to carry forward $975,345 for that project. Municipal facility backflow preventers. So that project was $40,000. It was not started in 2025, and we'd like to finish it in 2026. The YCE multiplex, of course, this is the phase that was budgeted for 2025, and we'd like to carry forward this portion and likely will adjust the full budget, including the 26 budget, to combine them in the spring adjustments. So this is just the 25 portion being carried forward for $11,426,426. Columbarium, we have delivery of it in 2026, so we're carrying forward $3,503 for that. Soccer Shack, the quotations exceeded the budget, and so that will be determined in the 26 budget, but we need to carry forward this $40,000 for that work. So the next page is just the summary of the projects as a whole, including the original budget and the remaining budget to be carried forward for the total $15,568,267. With that, I have a recommendation that council approve the attached list of operating and capital carry forward projects to be completed in the 2026 budget year for a combined total of $15,568,276 and open to council for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for your presentation. Council, any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Schramm?
Yeah, through the chair to administration. Just a quick question on the operating one. On the municipal facilities parts and supplies, in the spreadsheet, it doesn't show any original budget, but yet a carryover of 22,483. I'm not sure if that's just an error or if you can explain that.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Schramm, through the mayor. This is part of this isn't well identified in the operating budget, and so it was difficult to pull out a specific line item for this area. So we have just included a carry forward amount of what they require to complete that project in 2026. We are working hard on improving our budget processes, but in that particular department, it wasn't a line item that said 30,000. It was included with other items in parts and supplies.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, concerns from council? Councillor Holden?
Yes, through the mayor to CFO McDonald. Thank you for your presentation. I just want to confirm something so I have it in my mind right. Those dollar values of the $15,568,000, moving it from, that would be from the previous budget, not in addition to the budget that we passed in the fall. Am I correct in that? So we had a budget that we looked at in the fall, and so this money that was previously allocated for 25. It's just pushing it forward rather than adding it to an existing budget that's coming in 26. I guess it is adding it to it, correct?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Holden, through the mayor. this carry forward of 15 million will add to the capital projects in 2026, but they're already funded. So we're not looking for additional contributions from reserves to support these. These are just projects that were not completed and need to be completed in 2026.
Thank you. I have one more question, if I could, Mr. Mayor. That's exactly great way you put that forward. The other thing is, this is more for administration there. So due to quite a few projects that are carrying over, is this going to adversely affect administration's ability to complete the 26 projects in the budget for 26? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Holden. I believe that the staff feel confident they can complete these projects in 26 as they reviewed it in our budget process at the end of December. However, we certainly do try to report to council on a quarterly basis and review those capital projects. If council has concern that they might not be completed in a timely manner, that's the time that our managers will express that to you. You will see in the next presentation our surpluses where you can see what was completed and what is carried forward and what was suspended. So it certainly is a good question to ask our managers on a regular basis, and we will be looking for that feedback from them to report to council quarterly.
Council, any further questions, comments, concerns? Just to Councillor Holden's point, I think it's important to note that over the last number of years, we've been very aggressive in our capital plan with a lot of projects on the go, and our staff have done immense work in trying to push those things forward. But I think the reality has been from the past council and into this council is we can't continue to add projects. We need to get some of these current projects off our plate, and that's all about prioritizing what we have the resources for. Contrary to popular opinion, we don't have immense staff, hundreds of staff available to complete these things. So appreciate the work of our entire team at the town of Edson for the work that they are doing to get these projects done, along with our third-party contractors. I do have two questions, and I don't want to delve too deep into the capital projects here, but it was noted that only $190,000 is needed to complete the B1 project. There's quite a bit of work still needing to be done for phase 2. So is that amount enough? And I also thought we budgeted more than 3.4 million. I thought we increased that mid-year last year. I don't know, Ms. Cross or Ms. McDonald, if you can answer that question.
I'll pass the mic to acting GM Cross.
I will ask our acting GM of Infrastructure and Operations, Donna Cross, to answer. Go ahead.
I think that is actually an error in the budget that I'll look with Ms. McDonald. Extra money was added on last year at budget, so I think that may be the old budget. So her and I will review that and then get back to you.
Okay, thank you. And I know spring adjustments are coming, so I just look at how much work still needs to be done, and 190,000 does not seem like it's going to cover it all, but I could be mistaken. And then also for you, Ms. Cross, Ways Creek Phase 2, can you explain what Phase 2 entails? I didn't necessarily realize there was a Phase 2, so maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
The project actually is just one project. It was designed as one project, but when we put it out to work with our engineers and our contractors, we just split it up. So we wanted to do the first part of the project to go that far and see how that's working. And it was also the end of construction season. Next year, we're going to look at, like 2026, this year, we're gonna look at doing a little bit of maintenance first and seeing if we just can clean up the creek and do a little bit more before spending a large amount of money as well. So that's how it's set up.
And just one follow-up on that. So we did receive provincial grant funding. Are we going to utilize the entire grant, or are we going to have to return some money? Or is it too early to say that?
A little bit too early to say that.
Okay. Thank you for that. So if there's no further questions, comments, concerns, I will take a motion from the floor, please. Go ahead, Councillor Holden.
I motion that council approve the attached list of operating and capital carry forward projects to be completed in the 2026 budget year for the combined total of $15,568,276.
Thank you, Councillor Holden. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And 2025 year-end surplus allocation. You're all about the good news, Ms. McDonald. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you is the 2025 year-end surplus allocation. We will start with the background. The annual surplus allocation is presented in accordance with the Reserve Policy FB4. Surplus is allocated after carry-forward approvals. Each department analyzes their for budget versus actual to determine what the surplus will be. Surplus balances are directed to operating, keeping in mind the targeted optimal reserve balance, and then the capital reserve, then to the capital reserve, unless otherwise directed by senior leadership team or council. Departments in a deficit require a draw from reserves to address the shortfall. Further details will be provided with the audited financial statements. However, approval is required at this time to complete the necessary transactions along with the year-end reserve balances. There is an overall operating surplus of $2,024,653 to allocate. Administration is proposing $807,994 to operating reserves and $1,216,659 to capital reserves. From the capital projects, several projects are now completed with a surplus of $925,122 to be returned to capital reserves for future capital projects. For 2025 operating surplus allocation, it is derived primarily from the revenue sharing agreement, offset by the loss of revenue for a multi-year designated industrial assessment appeal that impacted the tax revenue in 2025. The revenue sharing agreement reserve is required to have a 3-year rolling average of $5.5 million, of which the town expects to exceed that balance at year end. Therefore, administration is recommending a surplus be allocated to the resiliency reserve, which will be drawn on to support the final year of the designated industrial assessment appeal reductions. Administration is proposing to allocate funds to operating reserves with a mindful eye on that targeted balance identified in the reserve policy. Since the town annually budgets 2.5% to operating reserves and 6% to capital reserves, as we reach that targeted balance, the town will be in a position to reduce the annual contributions to operating reserves from, say, 2.5% to 1% and increase the much-needed contribution to capital program from 6% to 7.5%. Keeping in mind the infrastructure gap or deficit. Administration is transitioning towards reduced surpluses through improved budgeting and utilizing the reserve policy more effectively. Note our 2024 operating surplus was 3.8, almost 3.9 million, and capital surplus was 1.2 for a total of 5.1 in 2024. So you can see already that our budgeting is improving and our surpluses are reducing. Are there any, I'll stop briefly for any questions on the contributions to operating reserves from the operating surplus.
Any questions, council? Quiet group tonight. All right, you can continue on.
This is still operating surplus that we are allocating to the capital reserves. We experienced cost savings in our contract from the RCMP, and so you can see we've contributing significant funds to the protective services area. Infrastructure completed some internal work versus contracting, as well as had inefficiencies in the tendering process. Environment includes water, wastewater, and solid waste. These are our supporting departments that do not draw funds from tax dollars. Sales support their expenses, and surpluses go directly to those reserves. Water and wastewater had increased utility sales, contributing to a contribution to reserves, while solid waste requires a draw on reserves to balance that department. Open for questions on contributions to capital reserves.
Council, I'll open the floor. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor to Jay McDonald. I may be jumping ahead on the gun on this one, but there is an error in the capital summary. Would that affect the numbers under the capital surplus? And now I do notice on the slide deck you do have a note on it, but under AFRAX radios, the math doesn't work. I think there's an extra digit in there because 175,000 minus 167,000 isn't $62,000. It should be about $6,200. So I'm not sure if that affects those other numbers that are on there. But there is on the slide deck there does show up
There's a note.
a note on it, but I can't open the notes on the slide deck.
Thank you for the question from Councillor Pisichny through the mayor. There was funds received. I believe we received a donation. Just let me speak to that because I know I put the note there on purpose so that I wouldn't forget.
I think TC Energy made a donation.
Yes, we received $55,000 from donations of TC Energy and Synovus to support the AFRAX radio project. So that reduced what we were required from our own reserves. Any other questions?
So I do have a question. You did note there that we are putting significant funds into the Protective Services Reserve. The estimated year-end balance is $1.8 million. I guess what is the rationale of putting all that money into that reserve when infrastructure and transportation only has 1.1? Obviously, we have our aerial truck that's going to be arriving in 2026, but I don't foresee any major capital in the next short term anyway, or is there future capital requirements in the short term that would require that kind of reserve balance?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. I honestly can't remember if the fire truck is covered under the fleet reserve or under its own protective services reserve, but that's what I was looking at for fire protective services. It would be covered under the protective services capital reserve.
So just further to that, Ms. McDonald, so the idea is how we'll be drawing down that reserve in 2026 for the aerial truck. So, or is that going to be with the aerial truck already included?
Thank you for the clarification. The aerial truck is supported by debenture. If council wishes us to use reserves to support it, we can do that. We can change that maybe in the carry forwards if you like. Maybe in the spring adjustments if you like. However, this would be for establishing the reserve going forward for future purchases in the whole protective services area, whether it's police, fire, or enforcement services, including the fire trucks in the future.
All right. Thank you for that, Ms. McDonald. Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor, to the mayor. There is other apparatus within the fire hall that would be scheduled to be replaced in the near future. So, and a fire truck nowadays, even a basic fire truck is over $1 million just for one truck. So there is a few of the other apparatuses are aging out.
So just further to that, Councillor Pisichny, are we talking 2 years, 5 years? Because I don't remember seeing it on the long-term capital plan, and that's fuzzy as well since I looked at that. So I don't know if you can explain that further.
I don't have the exact dates on it. Because I have another hat that I wear at the fire hall. There is a drawing of to replace 605 in the upcoming future because 604 will age out. It's already aged out. And 605 is not far behind it. because 605 is a 20. It's every 25 years for an engine. It's a 2011. Yeah. So it's a 15-year-old truck. So, but then there's also the rapid truck too that's coming of age, and then there's a quad. So there's a few other apparatus in there as well. So,
Councilor Position, you're aging me now because some of these trucks were delivered when I was first on council. Man, I'm getting old. Thanks for that. I guess my concern is that we have some very immediate infrastructure and transportation projects that have been deferred. And if that money is not required in the next short term, then I have concerns with us bulking up the protective services reserve at this point without addressing those other infrastructure needs. But if there is apparatus that is going to be coming in the short term, I certainly see that it's prudent financial planning as well. So, and to Ms. McDonald's point, I don't think I am in favor of not having a debenture on the aerial. We want generational equity in paying for that engine over the years, so that everybody that benefits from it will actually be paying into it. So with that, I will look for a motion from the floor unless anybody has any further questions or comments.
Nope.
Go ahead, Ms. Cross.
I just wanted to give an update to the mayor and council on the B1 project budget. The original budget was $3.4 million. In January 24th, 2025, council added another $2.5 million. So we have approximately $3.6 million left. So that's the correct budget.
And you're not quite done yet, Ms. McDonald? Okay, sorry, jumping the gun there. Go ahead.
The CAO contingency reserve was established for time-sensitive situations where administration. The CAO contingency reserve was utilized once for valve replacements for 2nd Avenue in August. Therefore, at this time, administration will be requesting to replenish the reserve from the water operating reserve. This transaction has allowed administration to practice the process, set up how the department will seek approval, and how we will be transparent to council on the process. We feel that in the future we would be in a better position to report the use of the CAO contingency reserve on a quarterly basis in conjunction with our quarterly financial reporting. We certainly are open to council feedback on improving this process to meet the needs of council. If there's no questions, I will move on to capital projects requiring additional funds. We have, there are 3 capital projects that require additional approval for additional funds from reserves. The bunker gear was slightly over budget and requires $400 from the Protective Services Capital Reserve. The construction of Township Road 532 was budgeted from debenture. The debenture bylaw has not yet been created, and generally the debenture bylaw must be created and advertised prior to construction starting. The costs involved here are not construction, and therefore we are requesting the funds from Infrastructure Reserve to support these costs. The 18th Avenue rehab was thought to be completed in 2024, and there are some costs that fell into 2025, the 25 calendar year, that require an allocation from reserves to support the completion of that project now. I'm open for questions on those.
Thank you. CO Beveridge, you have a comment you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to council, it just took me a moment to just review the capital budget. There was Rescue Unit 609 that is up for replacement in 2028. Just wanted to bring that for clarity. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions? Okay, continue on.
This slide is the unspent reserves on capital projects that are considered surplus, which have been recommended they be returned to the capital reserve for future utilization. The next slide is our capital summary. This is a summary of our capital project statuses. The projects are listed with their relative budget, their actual cost, over and under budget amounts, and the status of completion or to be carried forward. The last two columns show the draw from reserves required and the release of reserve commitments back to reserves, as explained in the last two slides. Before I go on to recommendations, are there any questions or concerns?
Any questions, comments, concerns, council? All right, continue on.
Before you are 5 recommendations. The first one, that council approve the overall operating surplus and allocated to operating reserves and capital reserves as set out in attachment 1. The second one is that council approve replenishing the CAO contingency reserve. The third one is related to the additional funds required for capital projects. And the fourth one is that council approve the allocation of capital project surplus to the capital reserves. And the final one is to authorize the CAO to amend the amount subject to year-end adjustments.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. All right, council, we'll take a motion from the floor since it doesn't seem like anybody has any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Pisichny.
Start with the first motion. I move that council approve the overall operating surplus of $2,024,653 with $807,994 allocated to operating reserves and $1,216,659 to capital reserves as set out in attachment 1.
Thank you. Any debate on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. I'll take motion number 2, please. Councilor Taylor.
I move the council approve the replenishing of $35,280 to the CAO contingency reserve from the environmental services reserve.
Thank you. Any debate on said motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Motion number 3, please. Councillor Fogarty.
I move the council approve additional funds of $82,388 for capital projects as set out in attachment 1.
Thank you, council. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Motion number 4, please. Councillor Wilson-Lear.
I move that council approve the allocation of the capital project surplus in the amount of $925,122 to capital reserves as set out in attachment 1.
Thank you. Any debate on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And motion number 5, please. Councillor Holden, if you want to queue up. There we go. Thank you.
I motion that council authorize the CAO to amend the amounts subject to year-end adjustments.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? The motion is carried unanimously. We just needed one more motion there, Councillor Schramm, and you would have had everybody making a motion. Thank you, Ms. McDonald and Ms. Schmidt, for your incredible hard work. Those numbers are impressive, and look forward to seeing the financial statements. Now the moment everybody's been waiting for, council committee reports. Can I get a motion, please, to accept the council committee reports? Please, go ahead, Councillor Schramm.
I move that council accept the March 3rd, 2026 council committee reports as set out in attachments 1 to 6 for information.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or things they would like to highlight in their council committee reports? I will just comment on my report. Obviously, last Tuesday, CEO Beveridge and I were not here. We were in Edmonton for a function, interacting with a number of members of the provincial legislature, as well as some other organizations. And we had some really, I think, beneficial conversations with various ministers, including the Minister of Advanced Education regarding Northwestern Polytechnique and the issues pertaining to healthcare and the need for rural physicians and medical professionals. So the Minister of Advanced Education is very open to meeting with us. obviously had some conversations with the Minister of Infrastructure as well, and some other members of the government, including the Minister of Children's Services. So I think it was a worthwhile event, and we look forward to see where those discussions go in the future. If there's no other questions or comments, I will ask the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We'll move on to information items. RCMP Q3 report. Can I get a motion, please? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move that council accept the March 3rd, 2026 RCMP Q3 report as set on attachments 1 to 4 for information.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And can I get a motion, please, on the letter from the Minister of Environment and Protective Areas? Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, I move that council accept the March 3rd, 2026 correspondence with the Minister of Environment and Protected Areas as set out in attachments 1 and 2 for information.
Thank you, Councillor Pisichny. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. We have no notices of motion, no closed meeting session, no business arising from close. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:39 p.m. Thank you, everyone.